Hey, everybody. It's Game Audio Hour number 165. It's a weekly podcast, or occasionally weekly podcast, where we talk about. I really honestly cannot remember. It's the Game Audio Hour
Game
number 165. Our weekly podcast where we discuss all things game audio, from creative ideas to project secrets to audio secrets. Here's where you find your in-depth coverage and opinion to game audio. I got most of it. It's an old hat, but I didn't bring it up this time, so I legitimately am trying to remember that thing. Why is it that I can't? Because we have started our 4th year. Somebody save me.
People will figure it out. It's called the Game Audio Hour, so it's kind of like you're okay. We just start right in.
There's games
and audio.
It's audio.
And let me give it a shot. Let me try.
Okay, give it a shot. You're looking at it. I can see your eyes looking at it.
I'm looking right at the camera. I don't even remember. Like, you don't even post it anywhere. See, I'm not even gonna do it now. I'll give up.
No, do it. Okay. I'll be quiet.
I don't even remember it now. I had it like focused in.
Mike, you want to give it a shot?
Welcome to the Game Audio Hour. Here you'll discover the latest tools, techniques. That's all I've got.
Oh, that's funny.
I usually start zoning out at that point. Yeah.
So we've been in and out, man, because we've been busy. You know, I feel kind of guilty about that. That we so many weeks that we don't know whether we're even going to have a show until Monday, and everybody's like, "What's your work schedule look like?" So I apologize to the viewers and listeners that we haven't been consistent, and I feel it's been getting worse. But it's kind of a sign of the work, and that's good, right? Because we get more and more work, we get busier and busier, but trust me, we really want to put the show on. We just end up at these situations where we can't do it, or like last week, Dan can do it by himself.
I would have joined you, Dan, but I got the message late. It would have been a dope show.
It would have been interesting.
Interesting.
The Chan show.
The more qualified we are to host this show, the less time we have to host this show. That is the
paradox. I see how that is.
That's exactly the case. Anyway, so hey everybody, good to see you after what seems to be a long break. And by the way, I won't be here next week, so as we mention it, I'm just going to say that up front. But hopefully you guys can make it. If you can't, we'll let the viewers know. But hey, let's talk about GDC. Mike, you're about to be stuck in a car with me for like 5 hours.
I am. I'm looking forward to it, especially if we stop in Solvang for Able Skivers.
Let's do that. Let's do a Able Skiver stop.
Solid. I'm bumping fists with you, even though we can't really do that over video.
Do it called a Sky 5.
Sky 5. Subject to latency. But yeah, I believe
the internet made me miss.
Vince will be joining us likely. That's the latest news. And what about the rest of you? You coming up or down to GDC?
Yes, I will be there. Monday through Saturday. Hanging with you guys one of those days, I'm sure.
I love how your enthusiasm just dropped.
Yeah, seems happy, doesn't he?
Because I'm never excited to be somewhere until I get there. That's just how I am normally.
Good save.
So you're saying that when you come to visit my house, you dread it until you pull into the driveway?
I have to drive there, Kyle. I don't get chauffeured. That's quite a long way. But when I'm in there, my energy is off the Richter.
Whoops, I muted myself. Off the Richter. That's true. It's very true. So guys, I was hooking up. I got to run. I got to put the Pro Tools station right here instead of in the live room. Who knew that you would have to move editing out of a live room? And so I bought all of these long cables for the keyboard and for the mouse. I thought I would share with you anecdotally the nightmare that is to add long cable extensions to a Windows 95 PC.
Do you want to remind our audience why you have a Windows 95 PC somewhere other than in the recycling dumpster?
I don't really want to do that because it's in no way can I save my reputation, even with an excuse.
Well, I feel like the paper clip is out of the bag, so you might as well run with it.
So this recording console has to run on a Windows 95 computer.
Woohoo.
Some people have said that if you really want to and you're willing to really work hard, you could step up to Windows 98. But I'm just going to stay at Windows 95 because it's stable. I don't know why Windows created a new operating system after 95 anyway. It doesn't make any sense. But it doesn't like long runs on the mouse cable. It doesn't mind long runs on a keyboard, but why is it that it doesn't like what's that called? Oh, this is why it's confusing because I keep wanting to call it a PlayStation 2. But the mouse connector is a PS2, right? Isn't that what it was called?
Because of the old PS2 operating system, right? Wasn't that? Oh no, that was OS2.
OS2, yeah.
So what's PS2?
It's PS/2, I think. Even I don't know what it means. But anyway, why is it that it's okay with a long run on the keyboard, but not on the mouse? What do you think, Dan?
What is it, like an old PS2 connector?
Yeah, why they call
Probably
the
because
keyboard.
probably because the keyboard just requires more voltage, man. You're probably just losing just the resistance along the line.
Yeah. Okay. So hey, you're giving me a hint. So maybe I could switch. I got to switch to maybe the USB mouse port or use a USB mouse because I've got these extenders that will re-energize the line.
Yeah.
I think you just gave me an answer.
All right.
Look at you solving problems.
So the answer was they're named after the old IBM Personal System 2. It's all coming back to me now, which was late 80s. It was an attempt to come up with kind of a next-gen answer to the very popular IBM PC family. And I forget if it was a computer or a new operating system. It might have been the thing that ran OS2. But I think that was when this format for connecting cable emerged, and it's still referred to in the circles of people who are for some reason using Windows 95.
Ouch.
I didn't say it was a small circle. I'm just saying that's where PS2 cables are usually discussed.
You're right. You didn't say that, but as the words were coming down your nose, it took a long time.
We all have memories. We all have memories of PS2 mouses, and
mooses. So anyway, thank you, Dan, for that. And but back to GDC. Have you guys been signing up for any of the parties?
Yes.
Are you following the what's it called on Facebook? They got a Facebook group called GDC Parties, something like that.
The Fellowship of GDC? No.
Yeah.
I have not.
Anybody
Once you
else?
go enough, you get wise and you realize where to go before they even post about parties in that thing.
That's smart, isn't it?
Yeah, but you got to know. And you get emails.
Apparently, Chase knows and we don't. So why aren't you sharing these emails?
I don't know. I didn't get any requests, so I don't know what to say. Sorry.
I didn't bake you a cake because you didn't ask for a cake. Sorry. I'm complaining. But anyway, so apparently the answer is to our viewership, just follow Chase and you'll end up at the parties.
Chase the chase.
Hang out with Chase.
Just hang out with me. Actually, that happens quite often at GDC. I will be overwhelmed, but I'll be happy to bring everyone along and get into the parties where we can go. But you have to definitely hit me up well week before because I will not be able to get you in the day of. I promise you. I just don't have that pull.
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
Should we do a special Guerre edition GDC?
Mm-hmm. Yep. You already know that was a yes. For me, at least.
We'd have you, me, Vince, Mike, but no Dan.
Yeah, we can have Dan because we can Skype him in like how we did every other time.
In that case, we could also do Alex. That'd be kind of cool.
What time in the day? That'd be awesome, though.
Listen, the man's got to get up sometime, and I don't care if it's in the middle of the night.
I'm down if you're down. Tell me where and when.
I have no commitment from the Shapiro, so Oh,
we'll have to find a location. I'm not staying at the good hotel this year, so their lobby may not be as accessible. This year, I decided I would actually like to be able to sleep at night, so I've moved on.
If we choose well enough, we can probably do it in the open lounge halls. I like maybe like the West Hall area or something where there's internet.
We'll figure it out. I'm also the hotel I'm staying at might have I know it has conference rooms. They might have something I could steal.
I'll skip a party for this one. It's most important.
So the upshot
We'll arrange
is,
it around your incredibly large social calendar.
Not needed. Not needed. I promise.
All right. So GDC's on. You're going to see a slight majority of the crew from Gech. And what were a couple of topics that we were talking about?
Demo reels and adding people on LinkedIn and Facebook.
Oh, yeah. So, so earlier today, I was showing Chase how to set up the show for days that I can't get to doing all the magic behind the curtain. And as we were talking about it, a question came up and we wanted to pose it to the whole panel was, do you guys get a lot of Facebook or LinkedIn or just general social media requests for friendship from people you don't know in the game industry?
Yep.
And how do you handle it? What is your rule?
My rule is if I don't know you, then you're not my friend.
Bam.
So for like LinkedIn stuff, right? Like why would we network if I've never worked with you or like associated with you at all? Like, I think of LinkedIn I think of the idea of LinkedIn, not what it has become, as kind of like, hey, tell me about this person you worked with, or I see that you know so and so. Can you introduce me?
Yeah.
To me, that's what LinkedIn's supposed to be about, and that's like some random person I've never heard of. Sorry. No.
It's a tough one. What about you, Mike?
So one thing I do with LinkedIn is I try to only limit it to people in the entertainment industry or game industry or kind of related fields. So I'm constantly declining connection requests from my friends. And I always tell them, just find me on Facebook, find me on all those places. And this takes a lot of discipline. I do sometimes get friendship or LinkedIn-ship requests from people I don't know. And it's, I don't know, 80% of the time, it's like a composer from Germany or someone I've never heard of, but they seem like they're working in audio in some way. And like Dan, I generally won't accept them unless I have some sense of who they are. However, every now and then there'll be someone who could potentially be a client. And in those cases, I accept, no questions asked. And then I try to find out who they are, what their deal is.
What's with all the German composers? 80%.
That was I think that was kind of meant to be a characterization of a category. But there's always someone they're in music in some way, but I've just never heard of them. And how did they find me? And it's a little weird. It's flattering / disquieting.
Well, I can speak for Mike, the German composers, is because he's big in Kaiserslautern. It's true.
That's true, Kyle. It's just the other day I was asking myself, what's Kaiserslautern? And I told myself, well, you were there, Kyle. What did I say? What was
you said this is K-Town is the best town.
Yeah, that does sound like something I'd say.
Kaiserslautern is a pretty cool place. But Chase, what do you do? How do you feel? And by the way, let's include Facebook too, like Facebook friends.
Yeah. So for LinkedIn, it's pretty much how, kind of like how you guys are saying, like Dan and Mike. First, I want to start with Facebook. If I haven't shaken your hand or seen your face in real life, I'm probably not going to add you right away. I mean, like, I'm going to kind of wait till I at least see you at a conference. And if you tried to make that initial contact with me on Facebook, I'm going to hope that you might have tried to like make an effort to communicate after the fact. Like maybe I have added you, But I'm going to say 100% of the time that does not happen, and I can count the messages that are in there. I would be happy to share that those statistics just are just like that. You will add me, and then maybe you just don't engage, or you don't hear from them, and I'm like, okay, well, am I supposed to get engaged with you, or how does that go? And so I had to kind of limit myself in terms of, hey, if I haven't even seen you in person and say hello, probably not going to add you. I'm sorry. I hope I can meet you one day. And then, yeah, it's cool. For LinkedIn, I guess I don't check it that often, but when I do, it seems to be with people that I have worked with or that I possibly might work with in the future. And that's only starting to just now happen more, as like people are adding me out of somewhere like recruiters or something to look for work for something of that nature. But it's not as crazy as my friend requests, I guess, can be on Facebook. So
how about you guys for Facebook? Where do you stand on that?
For me?
No, you said, but Mike and Dan.
Facebook is more personal generally, so I try to discourage people who aren't personal connections on that. It's not as much of a professional social network.
Yeah.
That said, I once received a friend request from one of the directors or producers of Blair Witch Project. And I said, well, hi, do I know you? And he's like, oh, you're a film composer, so I friended you. And what am I going to do? Like, no, piss off. Take your record-breaking, profitable film elsewhere. So in rare cases, I will accept a friend request from a stranger if they seem like it's a legitimate professional outreach. I try to gently nudge people towards my Facebook page, the more professional representation on Facebook. But sometimes you don't want to inconvenience people who are, potentially valuable connections.
So you have, and I see this with a lot of people, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, you have a personal Facebook page, and then you have a Michael Gordon Shapiro, the composer Facebook page, right?
Right. And they're distinct entities on Facebook. Page with a capital P represents a business or an entity or something that has followers more than friends. And your personal profile is the social hub of your network. And that's more for friends and people you know.
Gotcha. So if somebody was to search and wanted the composer page for you, what would they search in Facebook? I ask because I know a lot of people who do this, and there's one friend in particular who does this, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of why I ended up in a position where I couldn't figure out which one was his personal, which one was his professional, but it was because the way he spelled his name was slightly different for one than the other, and I thought it might help to mention.
I differentiate the two with my middle name, which is really useful because I have such a common name, and I never use that in real life. So that's the distinction. I got Michael Gordon Shapiro for the professional page, and then just Michael Shapiro, or maybe it's Mike, for the personal page. Some people like to take their name and then they'll add comma composer or something along those lines.
Yeah, that's something to look for too, isn't it?
It's not a bad strategy.
Well, I have to include myself in this for LinkedIn. I'm similar to Mike in that if somebody is in the music industry, working in the music industry, and it doesn't matter to me if you're just getting started or not, if you've been doing it a while, I try to accept those connections because there's groups that I join, and it allows a person now to see, like, if they want to see what groups I'm in, it makes it easier for them. It might help them in their career or something like that. The danger is, though, that they have access to my network, right? So if I accept somebody and they're, not the nicest of persons, and they just peruse my connections and just start blasting them with emails, which I don't think that's ever happened to date, that would stink. But to be honest, the person who received the emails would have no idea that they got their name through the connection with me, I don't suppose. But so I try not to discourage too much from people connecting to me at LinkedIn. I don't. Yeah, that's and then more than that, it's people I can vouch for. So I don't mind friends on LinkedIn either, because if it's a friend, although we've never worked together, I feel, if I have a friend who I wouldn't vouch for because we've never worked together, I would start to have to question how much I think of them as a friend. And it's like, this is a friend, this is a good person. I really believe in what they do. I want them to have success. And if if my LinkedIn page or being connected to me helps them in some way, I think it's good. So when it comes to LinkedIn, I try to approve people in the industry and friends. For Facebook, it's harder though. And, and sometimes Facebook had a follow, and I think they still do, but there have been times where I've wanted to follow somebody and not friend them because I don't know them, but I want to keep track. And the follow wasn't available to do that. And so I just don't friend them and I don't follow them. And I'm thinking, I kind of missing out on an opportunity to follow what this person's up to. So sometimes I see a follow and sometimes I don't. But if it's somebody I'm interested in that I don't know, I follow. If it's somebody I do know, then I try to friend. And I kind of like that when people do the same thing to me on Facebook. But I do understand that maybe that's a button you can turn on or turn off. Follow. Does anybody know?
Yep. There's a like a RSS type of feed thing you can do.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I
have a question for you guys though. Have either of you had a person who works in the game industry that's not game audio and they like so excited to introduce you to the next game audio person that they might have just met, thinking that you may or may not know them, and then it happens to you like a lot throughout the year? And how do you guys deal with that?
Can you recap the scenario again?
So you may have a acquaintance or a friend, a colleague that works in the gaming industry. They're not in game audio though, and they're eager to introduce you to another person in game audio, assuming most of the time that you may not know that person. And they'll do it like not them just specifically, but maybe multiple people who are not working in game audio seem to kind of follow that trend. So maybe a programmer wants to introduce you to another game audio person they just met, or an artist who works in somewhere wants to introduce you to a gamer, thinking that we don't know each other, but we all know that we most likely will. How often does that happen to you guys, and how do you guys deal with it?
It's like your grandmother trying to set you up on a date or something because they just ran into someone.
How do you guys deal with that, or how often does that happen for you?
Mostly for me, it's some sort of marketing thing. Like, hey, you do this stuff in games, and I have a client who is, interested in games or something. And can I make a connection? And if it's on LinkedIn, I just ignore that email. Not
what
terrible.
about you, Mike?
Usually when that happens, it's because someone's niece or little brother or friend's little brother is coming out of music school, or they're going into music school, and a friend wants to introduce me to them and ask me to answer questions. Usually I try to deflect those to email because it's a better medium for answering questions, and it's less persistent. You bestow your wisdom and then you move on. And if they want to follow up with more questions, that's great. But I try to not have that happen over Facebook.
Cool. Has it happened to you in person at all? Like maybe at a meetup or a gathering or something like that?
Oh, yeah.
Well, someone must have introduced me to Kyle at some point, so I can't say that the process has no good benefits.
What, I thought you guys met at a D&D convention.
Oh,
Talk about that.
Mike was a DM, and he cursed me to always be his friend, and I cannot break a curse. It's a paid off curse. It's a good curse, Mike. I approve of it.
Yeah, I paid good money for that.
What?
I paid good money for that. So I assume Chase, you asked this because this is happening to you.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, it has. And so I've been pondering why it happens. And I mean, I know the initial answer, like, okay, they're just trying to introduce other like-minded people to things that what we are. But I never see it. I don't think I see it happen like with programmers. Saw programmers like, hey, did you meet this other program over here? You should talk to this guy. Or hey, this person does 3D art and environmental art. Did you meet him? Like, that network doesn't seem to happen like that. But for some reason, when it happens with audio people, they're so eager to like rush us to get to know each other. And then I feel bad because I most likely do know that person. And I'm like, yeah, I know him. We've been friends for like 5 years. And they were like, oh man, that's super cool. And then they don't know what to do afterwards. So I just find it kind of interesting in the sense.
I like
Dan,
the attempt to network, though. I think it's important that we network it to the best of our ability. And I do like paying it forward. So if somebody says, "Hey, do you know this person who's doing some audio stuff?" and I don't know them, I will say, "Oh, let's meet up and have a drink or something. Just talk about what's going on." I like that.
It does turn out very, very good most of the
One
time.
thing that's important to remember is that even if these introductions feel ham-fisted and clueless, they're well-intended. And in the scenario you've described, somebody in the game world who's not a peer thought about you. And that's something that's nice to encourage. So even if it's like, I keep running this guy in conventions, and why do you introduce me to him again? Still remember that from the point of view of the programmer or whoever it is, they're thinking about you and they're trying to help you out in a way. So you should always express appreciation, even if the actual introduction isn't that valuable.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Not that I was ever unappreciative of the notion. I was just curious if it happens to anyone else besides me.
Totally. I don't think Chase is capable of being unappreciative. You're the nicest guy in the world. Hey, I wanted to cover a couple things in the chat room that were because I came in here kind of late. If you guys don't mind, Bob says that a USB mouse might not work with Windows 95. Thanks, Bob. I will keep an eye out for that. I agree with Adriano. The word is on the street that Windows 95 is the new retro sound everybody's going for. I agree. Who did the Windows 95 boot up sound?
It's Brian Eno, right?
That's right. How can it not be hip? A lot of great suggestions about LinkedIn/Facebook rules. Bob has a really good one. He has 2 Twitter rules. One, it has to be a real person. That's hard for me to tell sometimes. I get a lot of bots, especially porn bots. Oh my God. And going through and trying to clean up porn bots off my Twitter feed, that would take me so long to get rid of all that crap. And I don't know. That's one of the things about Twitter I don't like. And number 2, he'll look at the page, the first 2 pages, and put the person on mute if it turns out not being. I couldn't tell what that word was, but there are some circumstances where Bob will mute, and that is something important to remember. Is you can mute, and I do that when I see it's a porn bot. I'll like mute it or like ban it or whatever that word is that it's not allowed to be part of my thing, but they still slip through. What was another one? There was one more thing I wanted to mention. I think it was Bop, but I think it was earlier. I can't tell. Sorry. Sorry if I missed it, guys. So yeah, it sounds like the LinkedIn, Facebook, meeting people, it's all part of that network. That is, that's the most important thing. And Chase can tell where my segue is going. So networking is king, right? And just find a way that's comfortable for you to do it. I would encourage people that if you know a person, yes, of course, friend them. There are some people's friends list of filled up, though. You can't even become their friend. And if you've worked with them, certainly reach out to them on LinkedIn. But absolutely, we have all kinds of different opinions of the rules of how to connect with people, and it makes it very tricky to network. So here's where I was going to go. Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to say, Kyle, one of the many things you could talk about with your new social media connections is the excellence of Isotope products.
Yes. Isotope is excellent. I use Isotope products every day. Hey, you know what? I went to a concert. I'm gonna link this to a real life thing. And Mike Shapiro might be very mad at me. So this past Saturday, I went to the Orpheum Theater in downtown. And I saw the Steve Hackett Band live. Steve Hackett is one of my absolute favorite guitar players. I think that could come across as legit to people because even though I love guitar, I don't often speak about how many guitarists I like because there's very few that I'm really had a really major influence on me, and Steve Hackett is one of them. And Steve Hackett was the guitarist for a band named Genesis. Now, I want to ask you guys, what is the earliest Genesis song you remember hearing?
Selling England by the Pound.
Do you mean like the oldest song or the first song that we encountered in our lives?
The first song you encountered in your life.
For me, it would probably be Mama. First track on the eponymous album, right?
It's a great. What about you, Chase?
No comment.
Who's Genesis, right? So anyway, I'm really proud of Dan because the reason I asked that question, and a lot of people who hear the name Genesis will automatically just think of all the 80s stuff. And Genesis has been around since like 69 when they formed, and through 1976, Peter Gabriel was the singer for the band. And a lot of people don't even know that Peter Gabriel was doing something before he was solo artist. So early Genesis is amazing, and that's when Steve Hackett was in the band. And so this was a chance to see this early Genesis stuff that I never got a chance to see growing up with the real band, with the whole band. So their guitarist is touring with this thing, and the concert was incredible. It was fantastic. If you get a chance to see or search YouTube for Steve Hackett, Hackett, old Genesis stuff, you're going to hear amazing music. I mean, Mike, they did Supper's Ready, the entire thing. It's like 25 minutes of music without missing a beat, going into that 9/8 section where everybody's playing a different rhythm on 9/8. They hit the downbeats. It was unbelievable. So I'm only telling you guys because nobody can hear this. I illegally recorded the whole concert. And thanks to Isotope, I was able to clean it up perfectly. And I have now this beautiful live Steve Hackett, but nobody's listening to this. Anyway, so I wanted to thank Isotope for giving me the opportunity to clean up this completely illegally recorded recording of one of my favorite musicians that I'm never going to sell, and I'm never going to give away, and I'm only going to keep for myself.
We recommend. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm not sure that's the kind of endorsement Isotope is looking for. Just that wasn't one of the taglines I remember. You know.
Yeah, that wasn't in there in their marketing speech.
Clean up your bootleg.
To tell you the truth, I blew it up a little bit. I don't think it was illegal to record because people were standing there taking videos, and the ushers were going up and down. Nobody got called out, so I don't think it was.
And you paid for the concert, right?
What'd you say?
You paid for the concert.
Oh, I paid, and I paid for the licensed Isotope.
I guess that's okay then, right? You paid, you know.
Yeah.
I guess.
Sometimes they will say that there's no recording. And to tell you the truth, my friend Michael Bland went, and we missed like the first 2 minutes of the first song. So if they made an announcement of don't record, we weren't there for it. We were eating amazing food at Wood Spoon. If you get a chance to go to Wood Spoon, it's like this Brazilian restaurant. That's fantastic. It's near 9th and wherever the Orpheum is.
Kyle, you invite me to every concert you go to, and this was the one that I actually would have come with you, and you didn't mention it. But you'll be like, "Hey, Mike, the touring drummer from the Beach Boys, 1972 to 1973, is going to be singing arias from Webern's operas. You want to come? It's Tuesday at 5 p.m. and you'll have to drive through rush hour, but I can get your ticket at 5% off." Well, thanks, much like the introduction to the person you already know. It's like, thanks for the goodwill, Kyle, but this is something I actually would have gone to, and you didn't mention it.
Dang.
So, okay. So although that's all true, and I do owe you a bit of an apology, a friend, I didn't even know the concert was going to happen. So another friend contacted me and he said, "I've got tickets to Steve Hackett. Do you want them?" And I said, "Absolutely." And when I said yes, Michael Bland, another huge Genesis fan, was in the room. So I was like, "Oh my God, you're the first person I see that's another Genesis fan." I didn't think, and I should have, Mike Shapiro, I should have said, "I cannot say this to Michael Bland. I have to wait to speak to Mike Shapiro."
Because normally it's like, "Hey, Mike, John Parr is doing a comeback concert of all his B-sides. So he's not going to do Naughty Naughty, but he's going to do all his other songs, and they're all acoustic." And he actually had a tracheotomy, so it's going to be done through a sign language interpreter. You want to come? It's Santa Barbara in 2 hours. That's usually what Kyle tells me.
Michael Parr? Oh, my God. Didn't he do Sunglasses at Night? Or who was that? Corey somebody. Never mind.
It's Corey somebody.
Oh my God, that's hilarious, Mike. Okay, so here's the good news for you, Michael Shapiro, is that next year when he comes through, because apparently it's an annual thing, we're going to the Orpheum to see Steve Hackett and the Genesis Experience.
Okay, well, just give me some notice.
You got a year.
Okay, we're off to a good start. We're off to a good start. So keep the notifications coming. Don't just go and then be like, Mike, 9 months ago I told you. Why didn't you buy your tickets? You see how it works? This
It was
is
pretty
sweet
amazing.
Spot. Like between like a month in advance is cool. 2 hours in advance, no. A year in advance, no. There's a window
so
of
picky.
opportunity. I know. I'm a
You're so
prima
picky.
donna.
So, Dan mentioned Selling England by the Pound, and they did Firth of Fifth, which is one of the best guitar leads you're ever going to hear on an album. If anybody who's listening to this, anybody's in the chat room, look up Firth of Fifth, Genesis, and there's this part where Peter Gabriel's playing the flute and he creates this melody, and it's real chill, and then the band just explodes into this power. They're really dark. Early Genesis is almost frightening in some ways. I think Mike Shapiro might confirm. And Dan, apparently you've been listening to him for a long time if you're listening to Selling England by the Pound. But they love those Moog Taurus pedals, and when they hit those bass notes and they just lay that pedal on there. Well, anyway, so Steve Hackett is playing the melody of the flute on guitar when the band comes in and they drop that pedal. It stands a hair on my arm every time I hear that lead. It's fantastic. So check out Firth of Fifth. And the piano wizardry at the beginning, the opening is pretty amazing. So anyway, enough about that. That concert was amazing. Thank you, Isotope, for supporting the concert and me and my questionable activities. And thanks for sponsoring the show. And so I wanted to talk about this before we forget. It's 6:40, and I know it's going to take some time. Demo reels. I want to talk demo reels. So the number one question is, how important is a demo reel? Go.
Pretty important.
Compared to what?
I love that it wasn't just an automatic knee jerk. This is so important because I personally have conditions on how important I think a demo reel is.
But I mean, like compared to love of family, I mean, like what's the scale of?
It's self-explanatory. I don't make a demo reel to get dinner. Well, I guess I make a demo reel to get paid so I can have dinner. But I mean, if you're going for a gig, obviously, how much does a demo reel play in the role of you getting the gig?
I think generally a lot depends on your existing relationship with the decision maker. If this is a client you've worked with for a while, the demo reel might just be jumping through the hoops to appease someone higher up in the food chain. Whereas if it's someone you've never worked with, you kind of want to go all out to make a demo reel that feels very relevant to the specific project and shows off what you're able to bring to the table.
What do you guys think?
The hiring someone is about trust. And so like if you have a gig for someone, especially if it's, and the higher the profile, the more is required, you need to trust that person that they can deliver and that they can deliver at the level of expectation required for the production. Right. So and trusting someone trusting a stranger is very difficult. Right. Like what factors would allow me to trust you, and a demo reel is a part of that if you're a stranger. But I think even more than that, your credit resume is probably going to be even a stronger factor in that ability to trust you. And I think when you leave the sort of audio director sort of realm and you look at just sort of a generic decision maker, a gatekeeper to a job, if they hire some random strange composer who has no credits, but has a pretty decent reel, and they hire them for some like huge gig where they're, investing in an orchestra, and the Metacritic rating comes back on that game and the music sucks, then you have to ask yourself, like, the company's going to be like, why did you hire this person? And the decision maker is going to be like, well, their reel was really good. It's not going to cut it. It's going to be like, they worked on this. I was supposed to be safe. This was a safe decision because they worked on this project, and that project was great. So it's not my fault, man. Like,
Yeah.
anytime if you're new to the industry, anytime someone hires you, they're putting their neck on the line for you. And so they have to trust you in like a deep way. And the demo reel might not be enough. Like, the demo reel might only be one factor in their decision-making process. They might have to know you as well.
Yeah, that's great points. What do you think, Chase?
I can only speak from my experience in terms of my career right now. And the demo reel for me is kind of like we've said, is almost how I eat. It's like what Dan is saying, like, they have to trust me. I am a stranger. Nobody knows who Chase Bethea is right now. And so if I can show my composing or sound design prowess through those reels that I've, put together, then that's just one step towards the trust that I'm probably going to have in terms of getting the job. And I feel like, unfortunately, I think it's kind of like music in the sense where it's really subjective, where some people will like reels with what they see and some people won't like the reels that they see because they have in their mind a preconceived notion of what it should be like to them. And therefore you end up in a trick bag almost. So I could put my best work of what I think is good up front for whatever gig or job I'm applying for. And if it's not up to par, I guess, to them and they choose someone else, then maybe that might be something else going along the line. Or if it compares to be just as good as the others, and I have to say, like, well, where did I fall short? And then I'm reconstructing the reel, making it smaller, making it longer. I don't know. There's no set formula to it necessarily, but I think it's, unfortunately, like, it's still very important, at least for my stage of my career, because my network is not so big where I can just have a lot of references coming to me where I necessarily don't need it. So for me right now, it's pretty paramount.
Wow, it's a toughie, man. So my opinion on the subject is so there's a demo reel show called Reel Talk, and it's fun to watch. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to submit my demo reel to this. And the reason I did that is because it's completely not updated. I don't use it for gigs. I've actually taken some inventory of the people who I have been past clients and some new clients and asked them to be honest. What part did my demo reel play in the gig? And 100% of them came back and said they haven't even seen it. And I thought to myself, I'm very fortunate to be in a position where the gigs that I'm getting are people that I've worked with before or somebody recommended me. And so many times the gig is just a conversation, some email, then it's a phone call. And then I try to go out of my way to get to see them if it's somebody who's local that I can reach. I've gone as far south as nearly San Diego. So I try to give a stretch to go talk to somebody who's a potential client, that contacted me. And that is how I get my work. I don't get any work from my demo reel whatsoever. So anyway, so I went on the show, and the show's fun to watch, and I got killed. Oh my God. It might've been the biggest bloodletting that show's ever had. I was just annihilated, and it was funny because they were reviewing all of this stuff that I knew I was submitting. Here it is. I don't even update it. It hasn't been updated in a while. Here it is. But they did a great job. They found misspellings. But there were some things that I thought were a little bit off because I have a business and I have clients. They ended up in the client section of my website, and there was a long discussion about why is this here? Because I think they just expected to see a demo reel, and that's the end of it. And there was no pre-talk beforehand, and so that's fair. it didn't, anyway. So I'm not here to defend what happened because there were some really great suggestions. I took it all to heart and some really good stuff. And I made some of the corrections, like especially spelling errors and stuff like that. I learned something really important that, like for instance, the latest thing that I had been doing, the owner of that company puts out videos where he's very excited about the sound effects and he plays them and he talks about them and he gets excited. And so I put that in my demo reel, but he's in control of how loud he talks or how loud that video is. And so when they went to play it, it was super loud and they were like, oh my God, you can't have loud videos. Like, so there, it was a massive bloodletting, but I thought to myself, I'm glad I went through it, but I don't use that thing for anything. So it got me thinking, how important are demo reels really? And I obviously, when I was getting started, I had a demo reel and I used it a lot and I updated it constantly. And I learned everything I could about demo reels, like making it appeal to the client that I had just sent some email or some sort of, hey, use me in your game kind of thing. But now I don't use it at all. And so I was wondering what you guys think. I think network is king because network is how I get my jobs. And because I'm getting jobs through the network, they're not even looking at my demo reel. So I don't even have it. I try not to, I should have updated it, I suppose, for the show, but I really wanted to go in there just straight, not edit it, not try to influence what they were going to say. Just like, here it is. What do you think? Anyway, so I wanted to ask you guys what you thought of demo reels.
One tactic that's very useful in trying to project the impact of your demo reel on other people is to put yourself in the decision-making role for something else. Like, for example, I because of a change of location, I'm changing primary physicians, and Kaiser Permanente has like a big directory of doctors, and you can go through and click on the one that you like. And there's a lot of them. So I found myself suffering decision fatigue, and I observed the factors that made me choose one person or another, particularly because after a while, I was just eliminating people. I was like, I just need some way to get these people off the list and cut the list down. And what I found was I would read an awful lot into a little bit of text. If someone was describing their philosophy of medicine and something just seemed a little odd, I'd be like, okay, I can use that as an excuse to eliminate the guy. And on the other hand, if someone had no personality whatsoever and they were just using the boilerplate, I am very happy to work with patients and grateful to be here at Kaiser, et cetera, I would also eliminate them because they wouldn't stand out in any way. And every now and then someone would have an opinion that was strong and had some degree of personality. I'd be like, yeah, I like what that guy has to say. I'm putting them on the list. So if you can take moments like that, and it could be like you're hiring a musician or you're casting an actor or anything where there's an analogous relationship, as Dan put it, of trusting a stranger, observe how you make decisions and try to carry some of that over as a model for how other people are going to respond to your demo and your website.
That is good advice.
Right
That's
there,
good advice.
Mike. That's exactly what I was talking about. Like you had an idea of what you thought would fit best for you. So whoever's hiring you, that demo may not work for them, but it may work for someone else. So like it can't be across the board. So my thinking of it is like, is there a universal, like, is there possible different formulas that can work in like different scenarios and work almost ubiquitously together? Eliminate something based off of what, just to kind of get through the list. But what if you missed out on something? I guess if you took a different approach in the mindset and that matched in. I mean, it's kind of tough, right? Because it's still subjective overall.
Yeah. Well, I want to simplify this. My philosophy is, if you're new to the industry, you definitely have to have a demo reel. But the conversation that you have in email, your resume, which is a one-sided conversation of you speaking about yourself, I think that those are far more important. Demo reel to me shows capability, but your resume and any kind of email conversation is going to really cinch it for whether you get the gig. Now, here's the thing about demo reels that sucks, is that there, as many demo reels are out there, are as many opinions on what it should look like. And that pisses me off, because some people say, oh, your latest work should be at the top of your demo reel. Some people say just make one movie with a bunch of short stuff. I personally don't want to see that. If somebody sends me their demo reel, I want to see a separation of stuff that you've worked on. I don't want to see it. First of all, I'm not going to sit through a 10-minute movie or a 2-minute movie, even just to get to all the way to the end, just to see these small clips. That doesn't tell me how good you are. It just tells me that you took the thing that you thought was the strongest and put it in that clip. You know what I mean? But yet, if you've got like, here's some sound design from this game, and here's a trailer I did for that game and stuff like that, and I get to sit through the whole thing, that's definitely more. And I hate the philosophy. Oh my God, I hate this philosophy. I got to settle myself down on this one. The next person that tells me that a demo reel has to be short because the people who are looking at it are impatient can kiss my ass, because I'm not sending you my demo reel so that you look at it for 2 seconds. You're trying to hire somebody, for Christ's sake. Spend a minute to see if they're qualified. Oh my God. Woof, I'm red under the collar. That drives me absolutely crazy.
Well, I think that's speaking to another thing. Like if you're sending someone a demo reel and it's a cold call, like you're basically bending their ear, right? Like
I'm not even going to check it if it's a cold call. I've already got a list of people who I did my homework beforehand. I got a game, I need it done. I got a list of people. So I already know who I'm going to be listening to. And if a cold call says, okay, somebody says, hey, I heard this game's going to happen, squeeze your thing in there. To be frank, you're not on the list because you haven't been networking. So that person who says, hurry up and get a demo reel in there, I think they're trying to hire for a game. The chance of them getting on the list is already so small, because the homework you do before the game is to get a list of people that could potentially be your composer or your sound designer in the first place. Sorry, Dan, I jumped on it.
Yeah, I don't think they're talking about that situation. I think they're talking about a situation where it's like you mail your CD to like the music supervisor at blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Blah. Like that is like they are being generous if they even open your CD, right? Like
Yeah.
That's I think what they're referring to.
I think I hear what you're doing. You're trying to play the devil's advocate. I appreciate it. But I'll tell you what, if I'm the owner of the studio and the audio director comes to me and says, hey, I opened the CD that came in the mail and I think I got us a composer, I'm going to be like, okay, you and I need to have a talk about how you're going to organize audio for this game. You know, you're not doing your homework. You're not getting it handled up front. And that drives me crazy. But the ridiculous comment about you've only got a second to get somebody's attention is but like I said, for every demo reel, there's a different opinion of how it should look. I think that if you're getting started, they're very important, but I think that your resume and any kind of communication you can create is even more important. And that's why networking is so important. And certainly it's the pattern that I took for my own career. And that's the way it's worked out positively for me. But once you get to a certain point where, and God forbid, trust me, I am not at that point. You know, the head of Sony doesn't even know I exist, you know, or games or anything, you know. So it's not that I've been doing it long enough that everybody knows who I am. That's not the case whatsoever. But I have to carve a career out of the networking that I've done. And so that's been very good for me. And I've been very lucky. And because of that, I don't have anybody looking at my demo reel whatsoever. And it just drives me crazy that people are preaching the demo reel so hard and putting everybody in these confusing moments of like, again, should my latest thing be at the top or should my best thing be at the top? Because my latest thing I might not feel is my best thing. Do I have the license? Do I have permission to put this on my demo reel? You know, and there's so many talking heads that will say, here's how you do it. And that's not true. That's not true. You got to do it the way you think it's going to work best for you.
So do you recommend that people have, like, I know that some people have like 2 or more resumes. Do you think that people should have 2 different style demo reels?
Yes.
You know, if I were to answer that question, I would be going against my own philosophy. There's too many goddamn people telling us how to do demo reels.
Well, so maybe it has been working to your advantage that no one has watched your demo reel, right? Like,
yeah, that's true.
Because that's the thing. Like, if someone's like, "Oh, look at this resume," and you check out their demo, and you're like, "I don't know, man." Like, it could work to your disadvantage, right? So I think that on its own might be worth updating your demo reel just to make sure.
Oh, Dan, that is capital, dude. That is tops, because you got me asking my own question. Why do I even have it out there if I'm not using it?
Yeah, if no one's using it, then.
But the truth is, I only found out that it hasn't been used for a long time this past weekend when I was collecting emails and sending this stuff out. And I sent the emails. So I waited a few weeks to have this conversation because when I was on the show, after the show, I started reaching out to clients and saying, have you heard back? And I got enough of them back that I'm like, oh yeah, nobody's checking this thing. And so now the thought enters my mind of, do I even need it up there? Maybe I should just take it down. But it was up there because I assumed people were looking at it.
So one of the things that bothers me about demo reels, or I think is really challenging with them, is that one of the big parts of hiring someone is that you learn really early on that you don't want to use your imagination when you're auditioning anyone. Like you can't say, oh, I bet they could do this because I've heard this other thing that they can do. And it's like, no, unless you hear them do the exact thing you're looking for, then all bets are off and you're taking a huge risk using your imagination in that area. So in that case, demo reels can be super useful, right? Because if I'm looking for a specific thing and I see it in a demo reel, then I'm like, that's the person I want.
Yeah.
So I think to that end, and I think the challenging part is that the demo reel isn't about you. It's about the potential client. And that person, whatever they have in their mind, you have no idea until you understand the job a little bit, right? Like, or the potential job.
Yeah.
And so if you're just like putting up a generic reel on your website, then the best you can do is just try to say, here's the kind of stuff I want to work on. Here's the kind of job that I want.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my best effort at that thing.
Because that's what you're good at, because we're not good at everything. Like, no, not everybody can write every style of music perfectly. There are some, I'll give it back. But to your point, Dan, there's a very large philosophy that people should just create one movie and put in their best stuff and just chain it all together as you go through. Can you imagine wanting to hire for like a Prince of Persia type of game, going through these demo reels, waiting to see if there's a Prince of Persia type of thing happening? It'd be much easier if they said, here's my World War II game. Here is my Puzzler. Here's my Prince of Persia type of game. And you can just jump right down to it and take a listen. Oh my God. There's so many different opinions on how this is supposed to be handled. It drives me crazy. And I can imagine that if people who are dependent on their demo reel, which is a majority of people in doing game audio for sure. And as Dan pointed out, I probably should get my shit together. The philosophy needs to be standard so people aren't guessing, because God forbid people go out there and they go, I've applied for the last 10 gigs. I haven't gotten any of them. Is it because of my demo reel? Well, they don't know. They don't know. No matter how hard they worked on that demo reel, no matter whose opinion they listen to and who else's opinion they listen to, going against their gut because they think some idiot like Kyle knows what he's talking about. Just do what you think is best. Represent what you think best represents your talent. Go for the games that you would be comfortable composing for, doing sound design for. But my God, who knows what a demo reel should look like?
Well, to the point of like the mixtape, as someone mentioned, or like your little vignettes or whatever. One of the things that I think you need to appreciate, at least that's why those demos have never worked for me, is that sound and music is something that specifically requires time to experience, right? And to develop over time. And so I'm much more interested in seeing what someone can do over, like if I've got a minute to listen to their thing, I'd rather hear how they make something evolve over a minute.
Yeah.
Than hearing like 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds, 10 seconds.
Yeah. But this is our opinion, which I happen to agree with. But demo reels, man, what a troublesome thing. Are they necessary? How important are they? What should they look like? What could we, if we were to collect this into just like distill this into some advice for people who are getting started, what would you say? Mike Shapiro, what is your demo reel advice for the game audio person who's within their first couple, maybe 2 to 4 years?
There are two types of demo reel. and you want to approach them differently. There's a bespoke reel for a particular project, and then there's your passive outward-facing reel that may be on your website or that you might present to someone if you meet them, but they don't necessarily have a project at hand. For a bespoke reel for a particular project, that should reflect the overlap of what you do well and what the project needs. Rather than, I mean, I guess it's possible to whip up something at the last minute just to try to have something in a style if you haven't written anything in that style, and that's valid. But ideally, you would research the project, you'd research references, you might get references, and you assemble something that puts your best foot forward in a realm that's relevant to this particular gig. For the outward-facing reel, the thing that's on your website, I would say show some versatility, but keep it centered around your artistic core, the thing that you do well, or the things that you do well, and that you think are going to move your career forward. And try to portray yourself as a composer who can do this stuff, but especially does this stuff, and have these stuff that's especially highlight be what you want to do, what you do well.
That's a good piece of advice. Chase, what do you think?
Oh man, I'm thinking deep over here, so I'm not sure if I'm going to answer the question. But
I'll dig
my
in,
initial
man.
thought, just to keep it brief, I think that for demo reel, I'm probably going to work with a cinematographer and go a different route, because I just kind of want to break away from something hasn't been done really, and see where that kind of takes me, because I feel like with an editor and a cinematographer, and it has nothing to do with audio, but like I think they have a way with watching cinematography of a way of pulling out the bigger picture and showing everything showing the highlights. And if I take a perspective of not just doing it in an audio form, maybe I feel like I can learn something from a different art style that will give me the idea of what I need to come back to whatever I want to show. Like Dan said, it's not about me, but I have to play a guessing game for the ambiguity to hope that it's going to be good. So maybe I need to step outside of what I need to do to figure that out. So I think I'm going to probably go that route now.
Yeah, that's a great idea, man, is to reach out to other art forms and see what's going on. The question that came to mind both when Mike was talking and when you were saying that was getting game audio jobs is such a mystery anyway, you know? Like, it's not like I know there are some people who have agents, but when I was a programmer, I could go to a firm whose job was to search the area for potential employment, and then come back to their little pool of programmers and say, hey, I'm going to send you over here to apply, you know, and see if it works out. And this firm gets a finder's fee, the percentage of whatever salary you agree, and the programmer now has a job. But that doesn't exist for game audio. It's not like there's somebody out there looking at keeping their thumb on the pulse of every game studio, of every game that's coming out, looking at the wind up times to develop the next Call of Duty, which is going to happen on a specific, you know, keeping a list of who the contacts are, and then coming together with this bucket of all of this game audio stuff that needs to get done, you know, and those studios that are looking for outside works, a lot of them have inside people, you know, there's nobody doing that. And so we live in this world where we're just guessing, you know, and I mean, in my early days, I probably sent my demo reel off to games that weren't even making a game, you know, like we're in the, I don't know, or in the middle, like they decided on audio 4 months ago, and here my demo reel comes showing up, you know. I think it's so valuable if we could get our hands on some sort of system or some sort of aggregate that's collecting, and I don't know if that's Indeed or anybody like that, to tell you the truth. And the games studios want to keep it quiet, you know, and a lot of people that are in-house are just going to hire their friends, you know, or people, or the studio's going to hire whoever they've been using. I mean, you know, Christopher Tin, how long's he been doing Civilization? You know, it's, you know, you're just not going to get some stuff. And when that gets in my mind, when I think about how hard it is to find the people who are looking for work compared to how many people are trying to get a gig, it drives me crazy. And I actually think the demo reel is worth even less because it gives a sense of false positive, you know, where you're like, or false positive possibility where you're going, oh, I sent my reel. I hope they check it out. I hope it's, you know, and you never hear back. That's another thing is game studios very rarely write you back and say, thank you for your, well, they'll do that through the website, that the robot will say, thank you for your submission. We got it. But you don't hear, you know, you could go 6 months, 9 months, a year. I mean, I've sent my demo reel off to people I haven't heard from in 20 years, you know, and so there's no obligation for them to say, hey, you didn't get the position, but thank you. Oh my God. So it just drives me crazy. So people are spending all this time on their demo reel, sending it, and they don't even know if somebody's watching for it or looking at it. And then they don't hear back, so they don't know. Something is more valuable is to collect that information of games and hirings and who's looking and when they're looking. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I don't have an answer. I just have a bitch.
Well, you'll never have like the equivalent of the Nielsen ratings, right? No one's going to be sitting over the shoulder of everyone listening to a reel and measuring how often they spend on each track and whose demo they listen to and not. But I'll touch back on something I said earlier, and that is, I think the best way to get insight into that messy, sloppy, multi-factor process is to put yourself in the role of decision maker and observe your own habits and how you go through lists of people for a potential gig and how being tired can affect you or how the deadline can affect you and how the degree of trust you're extending to somebody can affect you. Like I was using my doctor example as somebody who is essentially a stranger I have to trust with my life. And just try to keep a little recorder rolling in the back of your head, a thought recorder, and observe your own decision-making process. I think that's the best role model you'll get, short of having the ear of a actual decision maker and having them sit you down over a beer and saying, here's what I do, you know, when I'm listening to demos. Outside of that process, just try to recreate the process in your own head and use that as a guide when you're presenting yourself to others.
Good advice. We should probably end there. I'm just going to complain more.
Well, there is one thing that
go.
It's not a sponsorship or anything, but y'all know Sam Hulick.
Yeah.
One of his side businesses is running a reel website, for hosting reels called Reel Crafter.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And Reel Crafter allows you to create. You basically like have a library of your stuff on your side, and then you can create reels by like grabbing snips or whatever, and then you create these private reels that then you can send to people, and they're private links, and then you get data on when they play, when they stop, where they skip around, all that sort of stuff. So
that's cool.
You know, so yeah, that's something to look into if that's your pain point with
yeah, definitely.
Sending out.
That's kind of cool to collect that information too. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's really useful if you're like, oh, everyone is stopping at this spot. And maybe that's not a good spot for you.
yeah, they're all done here.
Because that's the thing, you know, you're not getting feedback, but if you can at least get the heuristics on the playback behavior, like what people are doing, the trends, that sort of stuff, then there you go.
Yeah,
and it's nice to know that somebody listened to your reel. And
you can, and then you'll be able to see if no one played it at all, right?
Oh man, so
I do
let's
know
start
that
a
those
business.
statistics.
Oh, go ahead, Chase.
I'm sorry. Say I do recall those statistics happening with SoundCloud Pro, but maybe not so specific. But I do remember like your start and your stop and when they were played and what time and things
That's
like
right.
that too.
I do remember that.
We could do a week-long symposium on this show about how bad SoundCloud is as a hosting service for composers. But Reel Crafter is really cool. So I back up Dan's implied referral.
Nice. Well,
The other one more thing. The other thing worth mentioning is that Gang is doing their demo derbies this GDC.
Yeah.
The schedule went up late, but you have the sound design demo derby and the music demo derby. And if you're going to GDC and you're getting the audio pass, you should check those out because they're just a really wonderful opportunity to get peer critique in front of a big room full of people. So And you never know who's in the audience, and just put yourself
there
out
you
there.
covered it.
Put yourself out there.
Put yourself out there. Huh. All right. I'm getting bitchy. I'm hanging up.
All right.
Thanks, guys, for listening to me whine. I hope we were helpful in that we passed on some good information. So I won't be here next week, but I think there'll be a show next week, hopefully. I'm not going to pressure these guys on camera to commit. But then we'll be back on the 12th, and we're doing our first review on the 12th. Dan and I are going to be reviewing a couple sound libraries for everybody to check out. I'm pretty excited about that. I don't know whether we should say it or not. Should we, Dan, or should we not?
I don't know. I mean, we could. I don't know.
I don't know whether it's appropriate to say what we're reviewing or not. Wait a minute. I don't know.
You're the boss, man.
I presume you have to let people know sooner or later.
Well, there's a philosophy in my brain that said, well, I mean, it exists. People could buy it. It's just our opinions, whether it's good or bad. Okay. So anyway, so the people at Pro Sound Effects, right? Yeah. Pro Sound Effects. Super nice people, and sent us a couple of licenses for New York City Ambisonic and Submerged, which is one of their new libraries. And I saw today they released explosions or impacts or explosions from, it's like they had an endorsement from Man Genius on there. That guy is an amazing sound designer, Mangini. Anyway, they've got some great libraries out there. So we're checking out the New York City Ambisonic and Submerged, and we're going to talk about it in a couple of weeks. And I'm pretty excited to I appreciate them entrusting in us, at least, an honest, letting us be honest about our opinions on things and sending us these licenses so we could do it. It was very nice of them. So that'll be in 2 weeks. And then after that's GDC. And Mike, I'll tell you what, I will play the live Steve Hackett concert all the way to San Francisco so you feel like you're there.
Appreciate that, Kyle. That's means a lot to me.
It sounds good. Thanks to Isotope. Okay, guys. Bye.